Happy Wednesday. I would just like to note that it's raining again in Florida. I think it's funny that I start doing Facebook Lives and it starts raining down here. Anyway, I lived in Chicago for 14 years and yeah, it rained a fair amount, but it's just, I don't know. It seems interesting when it does in Florida because you think sunny, you think warm, you don't think really rain unless maybe you think hurricanes, but that's not what we're having. We're just having lots of rain. It rained all through Memorial Day weekend and it's raining again this afternoon. We're hitting that time of year where it gets warm enough in the afternoon that it creates those sort of, like super fast, super large thunder boomers, and that's what we've got going on. So I actually had a moment here today where I thought, I'm going to have to draw instead of sew because I thought we lost power for just a brief second, but it was a brownout, came back on, so yay, we can sew today. Before I get into the sewing today, and I'm making really good progress on feeling isolated here. I'm getting really close to being finished. I'm in the second to last patch of green, so I'm hoping between today, tomorrow, and Friday, I'll get all the green stitched, and then maybe over the weekend I can get the back on, and then Monday when we come back for that open studio, maybe I can show you guys the finished piece. But Friday we'll make some more progress, because again, I don't think I'll get it all finished before then. So, the one thing I want to mention before I start sewing again is that my first book, and I put a bunch of posts out there on social media, and I'm just going to say it in advance, there's going to be more, because you publish something, you publish a book, and you got to market it, right? You got to tell people about it, otherwise nobody will know it's there, and nobody can go find it on Amazon. So I did. I wrote a book. It's a book of my poetry. I have written poetry pretty much for the last 40 years. I learned about poetry and was in 4th grade when I was about 10 or 11 years of age. And, Amy, hi. How much for my autograph? Let's see. If you want to get the paperback, pay for the book, and then my shipping to send it to you, because I'd have to order the book and then ship it to you. So anyway, if you want, DM me and we can talk about it, okay? Because that'd be awesome. Yay. It's also available via Kindle. But anyway, the book is, like I said, is a collection of my poetry that I've written for the last 40 years. And I just decided it was time to publish a book because it was sort of, I've always wanted to do it. I always kind of thought it was going to be a novel, and I think that's going to come down the road here a little bit because I'm working on a novel right now. But I never really thought it'd be my poetry. And then, I don't know, one day, just a matter of weeks ago, I kind of said, why the hell not? And I went ahead and discovered I could publish it on Amazon for just really, they make it really simple process. So, like I said, the book is called It All Started with a Haiku. It is on Amazon. It's available for Kindle and in paperback. So if you're interested in reading it, if you're interested in supporting me, I would love it if you would go buy it and then let me read it and then tell me what you think. And it's okay, good or bad, don't care. Share with me what you think. These are all short form poetries. Rhyming is rare, and so it's a fairly quick read as well. But it's just, again, these are just little poems I've written through the course of my lifetime. A lot of them are poems that tie directly to my textured fiber paintings because I do a poem for every one I make, and I use it as the label on the back. So I tie all my art together. So anyway, but today we're going to get jumping right back into the sewing and finish this. I am going to shift my iPad a little bit. I'm trying to find the best view for looking at, to see me and to see what I'm sewing at the same time, kind of watch the process without, I didn't really like the side view of me. So anyway, just vanity said I looked a little old and wrinkly when I did that. So we'll try looking directly at me instead. So I'm going to shift the camera and we'll get going there. But today's topic is going to be, if I can stay on track, is I want to talk a little bit about, let's see how that works. Is it good? Is it bad? Let's get this a little shifted more. There we go. That's better. Creativity and happiness. So when I was a kid, hi Keith. Are you in Texas, Keith, or are you in Chicago right now? Anyway, for those who don't know, my friend Keith, who just said congratulations in the comments, he and I worked together in Chicago on the O'Hare modernization. We're on the Consolidated Rental Car Facility. He's originally from Dallas, and with this whole COVID virus thing, I'm not quite sure where he is, if he's up there or if he's at home in Dallas. So anyway, I hope you're safe and healthy regardless. Everybody who's watching, and Keith, you too. So anyway, happiness and creativity. Hi, Erin. It's good to see you. When I was a kid, and adults would ask me what I wanted to be when I grew up, my answer was always, I want to be happy. And I've learned as I got older that I wasn't the only kid who ever answered that way, right? That there are other children who do that. But the typical response from an adult was, well, that's not an answer. What do you want to do for your job? And to me, that was sort of again, hindsight being what it is, this sort of shutdown of this adult, or this childhood desire to be a happy adult, to me is kind of like one of the first signs of how we're programmed as children to, show up and go get a normal traditional job and to suppress our creativity. The two just tie together for me. And maybe that's just me, but that's how I see it. And because for me, when I said as a kid that I wanted to grow up and be happy, it wasn't that I was a particularly unhappy child, although I had my moments. I got bullied a little as a kid, so there were days when I'm sure that answer, I want to grow up and be happy, had more to do with I just didn't want to be bullied. But really, overall, I was a happy little kid. And so to grow up and imagine that I wanted to be happy as an adult, it had more to do with I wanted a future doing something that I loved to do. I wanted to grow up and do something that was fun. I wanted to grow up and do something that suited me. I wanted to grow up and do something that fit who I was. But like I said, the adult response to the childhood answer of what do you want to be when you grow up, and the kid answers happy, and the adult says, well, that's not an answer. You got to start coming up with something else. So I went through the normal laundry list of ideas as a kid, as we all do. I think some people are very fortunate to know exactly what they want to be as children. As children, I'm sorry, it's coming out weird. I think some people are very fortunate as children to know exactly what they want to do when they grow up. That was not me. I wasn't one of them. Again, I just wanted to be happy. And happy meant doing work I really enjoyed. I just didn't know what that was at the time. And it took me a very long time to find it. And, so again, I grew up and I figured out, okay, I've got to go get a regular job and I got to work a corporate thing because there's security to that. Although we're finding in today's world, especially with the virus and everything else that's going on, that corporate isn't necessarily the most secure place to work, right? But what I found is as I grew up and I kind of followed these rules of society, which are put your creativity aside, put your desire for happiness aside, and just go get a job and follow the rules and, work your 8 to 5, your 9 to 5, go home, cook dinner, rinse and repeat. What I found it doing to me is I was actually unhappy. I was really quite unhappy with what I was doing for work. I was good at it. I was really damn good at it, but it didn't make me happy because it wasn't what I was called to do. And that was sort of what I was looking for when as a kid, I said, I just want to grow up and be happy. I was looking for that work that was something that was calling me. And this is, the reason I think this ties to creativity is because, at least for me, creativity and happiness go hand in hand. I think creativity is our greatest gift. I believe this with all of my heart, and I say it all the time. Creativity is the greatest gift we have as humans. And yet, many of us either don't think we have it, or we have it but we don't think we use it, or somebody told us that we're not creative, and we believed them, right? And this sort of disconnect with creativity, I believe, has a direct impact on your level of happiness. If you're not doing something creative, you may not be very happy. And now that said, if you are happy and you don't think you're doing something creative, I would argue that you actually are doing creative things. They just may not be what you think creativity is, right? right? Because creativity isn't just art with a capital A. It's not just sewing textured fiber paintings. It's not just drawing fun abstract shapes. It's not just writing poetry. It's not just writing a novel. It's not singing. It's not just dancing. It's not any of those. It's not. It is all of those things, and it is so much more. It's it's whatever you're doing that lights you up. And isn't that what happiness is, right? Being lit up, being just so on fire with your life, with whatever you're doing, with the people you share your life with, all those things. Happiness is this combination of things, and it's a choice, right? We can choose to be happy even if we're not doing something that we like, or doing something we don't like. Let me say it that way. Just as we can choose to be creative or not be creative. So, to me, the tie of happiness and creativity, again, they go together. And I believe that the more creative that you can be, the more you can institute a regular creative practice into your life, like I do with my textured fiber paintings, with the additional things I do, like write poetry, write my novel, my drawings, occasionally baking, the graphic designs I'm putting together for inspirational messages, the journal I'm going to create, all these sort of things that I'm doing to be creative, as well as the actual creative acts that come with growing a business, because that's, if you think building a business is not a creative act, we should have a chat, because it takes a lot of creativity to do it. And I just lost my point on that. Sorry. I have no notes for these things. Have I said that before? I have no notes. I wing these. But the point is that to have a regular creative practice, doing whatever it is you think that lights you up, that's what leads you to happiness. It's not people. It's not other people. You've probably heard this. Happiness is an inside job, and that's true. And I believe that instituting creativity into your life, bringing it into your life, embracing it, developing a regular creative practice so that you do something that lights you up every single day, all that's going to do is basically amplify your happiness. You're going to enjoy life more. You're going to enjoy your job more. You're going to enjoy your relationships more. And so the work I do with others is I work with people who run the gamut of, they already are creative, they're just not necessarily making time for it, and so they want somebody who can kind of help hold them accountable so that they can build that practice. I do that with some folks. I have others who did not believe that they were creative at all, but wanted to give it a try, and so they've hired me to be their coach to help kind of pull the creativity out of them, and each is expanding their range in terms of what they do and what they're interested in. Their happiness is growing as they dig into it. And then there's others who are a little further along. They were already doing some really creative stuff. They already actually had some practices in place, but they just want some support around doing more, and they want to add to it. They want to be able to really kind of step up their game and take it to the next level. So I work with people on all of these things, and that makes me happy too, because it's a creative act for me to help others be more creative. It goes hand in hand. But ultimately, happiness and creativity are, to me, one and the same. When I'm being creative, I'm thrilled, right? I am, over the moon happy. I have found that others who also are being creative are happier people. Now you might argue and say, well, wait a minute, aren't artists kind of sometimes depressed? Well, sure, yeah. We tend to feel more, those who do far more art. But I'm not talking about, Van Gogh types and Picasso types. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about just us, the average person who wants to be creative in their life. Creativity can increase and improve your happiness. Because it's not, to be creative doesn't require you to be all angsty and stressed out about things, or heartbroken or any of that. That can help. It can help feed ideas. If you've had some rougher experiences, or if you have an emotional mindset, certainly it can feed the creative well. But I think happiness feeds it better. And I think the more creative you can be, the happier you can be. There are many studies, and I'm afraid I can't quote them, because again, I don't prepare for these things. I just sort of talk off the cuff intuitively. But there are many studies out there that show that regular creative practice is great for your mental health. If it's great for your mental health, then isn't it going to, by default, improve your level of happiness? Yeah. So for me, I grew up, like I said, I just grew up wanting to be happy. And I spent over 25 years in aviation construction management. And I was happy in the beginning. It was fun in the beginning. It was in my 20s. It was a great time. It was lots of fun. It was one of those things that, I don't know, we socialized a lot. I think that was really what I liked best about it. But, which, I don't know what that says, but I was in my 20s. The socializing was a big deal to me. But it was also, it was a good career, and in the beginning, like I said, I did enjoy it. I learned a lot. I learned very quickly how to do my job and became very capable at it, and was turned to as one of the people who could solve the problems and manage the crises and everything else. And I inherited problem projects because I could whip them into shape and get them all going in the right direction. And that was great. It was lovely to be acknowledged that way. And so I won't discount the work I did. And honestly, building airports is kind of fun to say you built airports. That's neat to have that on your resume. But it didn't really ever make me happy because it didn't feel aligned. And when I say the word aligned, it's because I am a creative person by nature. I just am. And so for me to eventually, finally, in my late 40s, say, all right, I gotta be creative. I gotta do this regularly. It was a big deal. I wish I had done it sooner, but I didn't. Everything happens when it's supposed to happen. But so it took me a long time to really sort of feel like I had fulfilled that childhood dream of growing up to be happy, right? That was gonna be my job. I was gonna grow up and be happy. And doing this, making my art, working with people to help them develop a regular creative practice, it makes me happy. I'm excited to get up every day. I am not the best, I'm a better morning person than I was when I was a kid. As a kid, oh my God, it took a bomb to get me out of bed. But as an adult, and particularly all those years of working corporate where you had to be there at a certain time, I've learned how to get up, but I wasn't always happy about it. Now I get up almost without the alarm, which is just, that just baffles me because that's just not who I've ever been. But I wake up a little bit because I'm older, a little bit because I want to get up. But I wake up and it's easy to get up. I don't feel this need to linger in bed and avoid the day. I want to get up and work with my clients. I want to get up and I want to make my art. And that's just such, oh my God, it's such a welcome change. And it's part of why I truly believe that the reason I feel that way today is because back in 2014, when I picked up my sewing again, and I decided to establish structures and systems so that I could do it regularly and have a regular creative practice so that I wasn't just being creative all like randomly and willy-nilly, because that wasn't working for me. It had to be something that was happening frequently. When I put those systems in place and I started just sticking with it, I set the boundaries I needed to set, I requested and received the support I needed to receive, I got over myself and out of my way in terms of, was what I made, what I made, was it any good, did it matter, did it have to be perfect? I got over all that. I was able to work through all that and put all that aside so that I could focus on creating. And as I did it, in the 6 years since I started doing it regularly, like I said, my happiness has, it's gone through the roof. And so, if you're out there and you're feeling, a little unhappy, you're feeling like life isn't quite what you want it to be. And maybe that's some of this because of what's going on right now with the pandemic. And maybe some of it was there beforehand. But regardless, doesn't really matter which. We gotta have a chat, because let's talk about what it is that may be keeping you from growing up to be a happy adult, right? Or being a happy adult now that you are an adult. We should talk about it, because I do believe that if you're not doing something creative, we can find something that would work for you, and your happiness will start to shift, right? It'll start to increase, because you'll finally be doing something that brings you joy. Even if it's something you're learning, even if it's a brand new skill you're learning, it will bring you joy, because there's a sense of fun and a sense of play to creating. And again, happiness. Isn't happiness playing? Isn't happiness fun? All these things, these are all words that go hand in hand with happiness, right? Play and fun go hand in hand with that. So if you're not feeling as happy as you could be, we should talk. See if maybe doing something more creative would help you. If you're already doing something creative and your happiness is still kind of in flux, we should talk anyway, because it's possible that you just need some support to do. Maybe you're not being creative as regularly as you could be, and that's part of what's happening. Is you're not creating the habit, the routine of being creative. And it's weird, right? Creativity is supposed to be this flexible, wild thing. When we think of creatives, they're like, oh my gosh, it's all free-spirited and kind of wild, and I don't know, almost guru or goddess on the mountaintop kind of sense of feeling, that sort of in-flow feeling. So why should there be routines? Why should there be structure? But I would argue that if you're doing something creative, or you have a creative thing that you like to do, and you're still feeling that you've got a great deal of unhappiness, again, we should talk, because I suspect you're missing structures and systems that could help you to do it much more regularly, which then reinforces the habit, which then leads to the greater happiness. So, drop me a note if that's something that you're interested in. In the meantime, I have moved on to the final piece of green on this thing. It's a large piece, so I will not get it finished, certainly while we're on video today, because we've only got about 5 or 6 minutes to go before Open Studio will close for the day. But we'll see how much of it I can get done between now and Friday's Open Studio, and maybe we can finish it up on Friday. I would really love to get this piece finished before the month of March, before the month of May. What month are we in? I've been doing that lately, mixing up May and March. Must be the M's. But anyway, I'd like to get this thing finished by Sunday when the month ends, but I'm not overly optimistic for that. And the only reason I'm doing it, these things take me about 5 to 6 weeks to make, and I think I'm coming up on just on the tail end of week 5 anyway. So I'm really on schedule in terms of finishing it. But like I said, I'm on this last stretch of green, and then from here it's a matter of putting on the facing, which is the back. And that I'm going to actually have to see if I can find a fabric store that's open, because I don't usually have strips of, I usually, for the backs of these things, I almost always have to go buy some yardage from the fabric store, because I don't really have, I have more smaller pieces that don't fit a 36 by 24 inch piece. So I got to go see if someplace is open. I'm going to have to figure that out. But I'm not going to worry about that until Friday after Open Studio or on the weekend. So anyway, in the meantime, I'm going to keep working on this last shade of green. But to kind of tie up the topic of creativity and happiness and how I believe they go together, that they're hand in hand, is that if you are, creativity is everything. It can open you to so much. Doing creative things, even if it's just something as simple as coloring in a coloring book, right? And there's a ton of those out there. There's so many awesome coloring books out there. But something as simple as the coloring book, and doing it, again, it's the regular application of doing this thing, whatever it is that you're choosing to do, that allows you to reconnect to yourself. It allows you to reconnect to the imaginative and intuitive and playful part of yourself, which then, like I said, in turn amplifies your happiness, but it also has the added benefits of helping you be better at your job. Because I don't care what you do. You could be making widgets. If you're making widgets for a living and you don't think there's anything creative about making a widget, we should talk. Because there can be something creative about everything. We just have to find it, right? You have to find the piece of it, that little thing that's in there that lights you up, all right? So that's our topic for today, creativity and happiness and how they go hand in hand. And I just want to sort of leave with, again, I don't want to repeat what I said at the beginning, that when I was a kid and adults would ask me what I wanted to be when I grew up, my response was always, I want to be happy. And today, I am. And yes, I did a hell of a lot of work on myself. Oh, God, a hell of a lot of work. But the thing that worked the best was instituting a regular creative practice as the means of self-care that then delivered so much more to me and has brought me so much joy and so much fun, and has turned into a career. It's turned into a business. It's turned into the best thing that could ever happen to me. So that's what I got for today. I will pause this and bring you closer to me again, because I gotta be able to hit the stop button at some point here, right? So anyway, Tracy, if you're still there, hi. I see. I love how this thing tells me that somebody's watching. So if you're still watching, Tracy, say hi to me. Can I wave? What's this wave button? I'm waving to Tracy. Anyway, I'm still learning this Facebook Live thing, people, and I'm ragging around the edges. I'm a work in progress. I take these things one day at a time. I take these videos one moment at a time, one word at a time, and one thought as it comes into my brain at a time. But I'm just here to kind of show you what I'm making, talk to you a little bit about how creativity can really just open up your entire world. And I'm loving doing these things. So I'm going to keep it up for a while. I'll be back here on Friday, 3:30 Eastern, for again another 30 minutes or so. And I will see you then. We'll make some continued progress on Isolated and get it closer to completion. And we'll go from there. So anyway, have a fantastic rest of your day. Take care, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.